successful ones have been obviously the strict press, which has just come two groups straight. Number 8, lane 1. We are off.
Okay, welcome back to another one of my Strongman interview series. I've been off for just a little bit, but I'm back and I'm joined with a guest I'm super excited to have. Camilla, please pronounce your last name again for me.
It's hi, thanks for having me on. It's Camilla Fogagnolo is the
Okay, and Camilla, you have done so many things in your career with strongman so far, but oh my gosh, what you just did this last weekend. You just won and competed in the under 64 and under 73 kilo class, correct?
Correct, at the Natural World Championships.
Yes, that to me, when I saw that and I saw that you were going to be competing in both, I know how hard it is to try to compete and just do, you had 8 events too, correct? For
Correct.
each class, you had 8 events. So you went through and you would go through all your warm-ups and do everything, hit those events, and then how did you turn right around? And I mean, because then the weight ups and you have to do it again after you just went hard for the first event. How do you even get to that place?
I guess that it was no surprise to me that was what I planned to do. So that was how I trained. Every training session when I hit events, I would hit them at the comp weight for 64 and then I'd hit it again at 73s. So I actually was quite surprised. I felt really good between events. I'd recovered really well. I was ready to go again whenever I had to. I did something very unusual for me and I played smart in the deadlift event. It's not something I'm known for. So I actually curbed myself, did a bit of research, took a bit of guesswork and did enough reps. So I only did 8 reps in the deadlift for the 64s at 170. And then so that I would have a bit more in the tank to go ham in the under 73s at 180 and knocked out 14 reps there. So
that's what I thought I saw.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the only event that knocked me around was the shield carry, and it was just because my forearms blew out. The shield was thinner than the one that I've trained on, so it required for my wrists to curl in a little bit more. But so yeah, forearms were a bit blown out between those 2 runs, but aside from that, I felt good to go.
I can't even. What inspired that thought to do 2 weight classes? We do 64, 73. Why did you think let's do both of them?
In all honesty, I've been begging to do this sort of crazy shit for years. So pretty much every competition or larger competition here in Australia that we've had, one of the major promoters here would probably, I know he's just sick of me asking the question. Like pretty much every big comp, I'm like, can I do both? And yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to do that at the same competition. If the comps are on separate weekends, then yes, I can do them. But if it's the same competition on the same weekend, then I haven't been allowed to do both. So yeah, I have been asking for a long time. And the first time that I was actually allowed to do it was at the European Pro League in March in Edinburgh at GBA. Thank you, Stephen Wiley, for allowing me that. But yeah, at that one, the 2 events were on 2 separate days. So it was Saturday evening was the 64s, and then Sunday starting at 10 or noon, I can't remember, it was the 73s. So that was the 6-event competition, really fast paced. And yeah, that was super cool. I was really, really appreciative to do that. But I guess the start to this competition year was just insanity for me because I had that. I flew over to Edinburgh, competed twice, flew straight back like the next morning after competing, cut weight again, competed that weekend in Queensland in Toowoomba as an under 64 in like our nationals. And then the weekend after that, I flew down to Bendigo in Victoria and competed as a 73 in the national titles there. So that was, 4 competitions, 2 weight cuts in 3 weekends.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was,
How you're just on a tear. I mean, wow.
Yeah, look, I've decided after OSG December last year, it was the first competition that me and Carl could like travel after the world went crazy.
Yeah.
So we went over there, and for some reason, my lifts are still going up like I expected that I would plateau and things would start to deteriorate by now, but they haven't. And yeah, I'm still hitting PBs in like deadlift and stones and things like that, which I definitely wasn't expecting to. So after OSG, which was it's a story in itself, but anyway, after that, I did quite well, and I thought that I would give this year everything. So I would try to do, and that's my plan moving forward. I'm going to try to do everything I possibly can, nationally and internationally, until things start to go backwards, because I am of the belief, and I know that those close to me don't share this belief, but I believe that things have to start deteriorating at some stage soon. And when that happens, that's fine. But I'm going to spend the money and do the things and try to achieve everything I can before that time comes, whether it's in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, who knows. But yeah, I just want to keep pushing until that happens, and then I'll happily retire and coach.
Wow. So that's kind of your big push then, and it's a lot of, I guess, your motivation to do two weight classes back to back like that, because you're trying to literally win as much as you can in a window that you think that you're dealing with.
Correct. Yeah, I feel like my window is closing, and it has to close at some stage. I'm 38 years old, so, and I've competitively lifted in Olympic lifting and now strongman since I was 14. So 24 years of competition. Judo before that, and various things in between. So yeah, it's a lot of years of competition. It's a lot of stress on the body. So at some point, something's got to give. But yeah, I really wanted to. March for me was an experiment to see if I could actually cut weight twice in a week, or 5 days actually, and compete backing up competitions like they were. Like there was 2 days of competition, and then both of the Australian shows were 2-day competitions as well, 8 events a day. So I just really wanted to see how I pulled up after doing that. And yeah, the same thing for Natural Worlds. It's, for me, it feels like a cliche saying it, but I never base my performance on placing. It's how I compete and how I perform compared to training. So I really wanted to see how I would go in this situation that I'd never experienced before, having to back up each event the same but heavier over 2 days, 8 events. So yeah, it seems so far my little experiments are working out quite well for me.
How did your body feel at the end of that weekend?
This last one just gone, really good. I actually feel fine. On Monday, I spent that chilling with my little athlete and friend Tanita. We cruised around Edinburgh. Dublin. Not even Dublin, Galway. I don't even know where I was. I've been so many places. Oh, God, I'm a dumbass. But then on the Tuesday, we actually went and played with some natural stones, like on the Atlantic coast with a couple of the guys. And that was crazy fun.
If you can do all that and still be good, your window is a lot more than you're giving yourself credit for, especially to do all those shows. My gosh, contests, contest is where people say you can put on mileage anyway, but for you, it's almost like, just from the outside looking in, it's just looked like it's just another training session for you. I mean, you just go and you bounce back, you hit it, and you keep going.
Yeah, that's how it feels. And I mean, my philosophy, as with lots of people, is always to train hard, compete easy.
Yeah.
And I do train like a bit of a psycho. Carl has been teaching me to rein that in somewhat over the last few months, and I'm trying to learn. But yeah, I was really happy with the March onslaught of competitions that I did. I was expecting something to drop off. I was expecting either my top end strength or my speed or
Yeah.
technical components. I was expecting something would give, but I felt wicked. Every weekend that I turned up to compete, I felt really sharp. And yeah, everything was banging and similar this last weekend gone. Yeah, I felt really good. So maybe I do have a bit more time left. Who knows? But we'll keep pushing until we find out.
What do you how do you emphasize recovery? Because you talk about, obviously all these shows is a lot to recover from, but you say you train hard, I mean, as well. It's not like you're kind of resting on your training, doing restoration and then hitting it, every weekend. You're still training hard. So what are some things that you do to recover? Because for me personally, I have to constantly reel myself back. If I do however many sets, I want to double it. I want to double all the time, and I constantly have to pull back. And that's changed a lot for me. But for someone like you, what do you do to keep yourself recovered?
Probably not as much as I should. So, in regards to training, as I mentioned, Carl's been really helpful in teaching me to rein things back, and more is not always the way to do
Sure.
things. Much as it's not the way I coach, sometimes, do as I say and not as I do is a pretty common thing with athletes, and
Yeah.
that desire to always do more and feel like you haven't done enough. I suffer from the same mental plague as every athlete, I think, leading into competition, thinking that, yep, you haven't done enough and you're weak because you've had a deload week and you haven't trained 4 or 5 times that week or done all the things. But yeah, so far just doing, reining in the training a little bit, just focusing when you've got so many events to focus on, really just dropping back the accessories and only doing the ones which are necessary to keep your body healthy and whole. And just focusing on events and keeping them sharp is, important. I'm in a fortunate position that my strength probably surpasses, like my gross strength probably surpasses the weights that are often required in weight classes. So it's not like I'm redlining all the time.
Okay.
Obviously, with rep events and things like that, like you have to push pretty hard. But I also have the option to keep the reps within a range that won't break my body or cause too much deterioration to my CNS and that sort of thing. So I guess that
Okay.
itself is quite a handy little benefit.
Well, you just said two major things there that I think of. And number one is you're at a strength level that it other people's bests, and I'm not throwing off on any other athletes, but other people's bests is not pushing you to your absolute best. Now you're going to push as hard as you can in contests. I'm not saying that, but it's kind of like, when you look back at old time strongmen, Zadrunas, he didn't have to go to the red line a lot of times where other people were dying to hit some weight. That's a major, major difference. 90 to 95 is a big difference, is on your CNS, especially as 100. Okay, your body, but if your body is conditioned for it, the thing that I always see that falls is your central nervous system. You can't fire, you're shaking, you lose something like you're talking about, whether it be speed or top end power, something goes. And to be in a position where you don't have to push it to that level as much, that was probably big. And then also you said before that you had done Olympic weightlifting. So then when you talked about doing the main movements, prioritizing those, and then just doing just enough accessories just to, I'd say, probably help with, a little bit of joints or restoration, that makes sense because you're optimizing your training where everything is sport specific. And then the other is just use just enough to get in, and then you got it. You're done.
Exactly. Yep, exactly right.
That makes complete sense. Now it's clicking. I was trying to figure out because I mean this in the most compliment way I can say. You're a Terminator. Like, oh my gosh, to go through and do this. Honestly, I am super excited to have you on here for this because I've not had a female athlete on yet, but oh my gosh, to do what you've done with that, that is crazy. So if you don't mind, I'd like to back up and kind of get into those early years because you said you did some other sports. I'd like to go ahead and touch on some of that stuff. So starting off as a kid, what kind of was your first sport that you did get into, and how old were you?
So the very first sport would have been little athletics when I was like 5, I guess. Um, yeah, did that obviously as I was a kid, and then I specialised more in field athletics, so discus and hammer throw.
Okay.
Started judo when I was 6 years old. My brothers both did it, and I just wanted to be around them. We were home educated, the three of us. So, and yeah, quite isolated on a little hobby farm, hence
Were
probably why.
they older brothers?
Yeah, yeah, both older.
So you're the youngest of two brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a little sister, and I'm the middle, and my obviously I got an older brother, so we're the same exact way.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my
Right.
little sister, she got into doing jujitsu, so it's
Oh,
something about having older brothers.
yeah, exactly. Well, my dad always he wanted a third boy, so I guess I've kind of made him happy there. Like, I just sort of fitted in where I could.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so I tagged along with them through judo. I did that through till I was about 21. I was
really,
pretty good. Yeah, won a couple of like junior national titles and that sort of thing. But I never got a black belt in that because I hated gradings for judo. I found them really boring. But
oh,
competition was fun because I was good at it. At the age of 14, my brother started. My father got my next brother up, my middle brother, to start Olympic lifting as cross training for his field athletics because he was a very talented discus and hammer thrower. So I was an angsty teenager. I was a bit of a shit kid. Started smoking young and drinking when I could and all that sort of thing. But anyway, so my brother started doing Olympic lifting, and I was sat in the car because I was too angsty to go out and do the thing. And then it was hot, so I didn't want to be in the car anymore. So I went out and had a look, and I thought, oh, I'll give it a go because my dad was telling me I had to give it a go. And yeah, that was my love sport for the next 20 years.
really?
Yeah, I really loved weightlifting and I'm so grateful to it. Um, there are a lot of big stories from that, but it took a lot from me, but it gave me so much. I got to travel. Um, yeah, because it's a tested sport. Like I was a dumb kid. I went to year 11, so I don't know what that equivalent is for you, but it's usually like 17 year olds here. I did that when I was 13 years old. Would have taken all of the drugs and done all of the things because I was a dumbass, but then I couldn't because I was getting drug tested in a tested sport. And yeah, then I grew up and grew a brain and don't really have any desire to do that, nor did I, through my younger years. So yeah, very grateful to that. Yeah, won multiple national titles, Oceanias, Commonwealth Championships. I missed out on 2 Commonwealth Games by like 1 kilo. The last one literally by a kilo, and that just broke my heart. So yeah, I
Uh,
was for that one. I was training like 25 hours a week. I co-owned a gym, the Weightlifting Academy of Tasmania. Yeah, training, working, coaching.
Wait a second.
Yeah,
You train how many hours a week?
it was about 25 hours a week at the top end.
How are you doing that? I mean, what do you have to do for that?
We're talking, I would train 5 days a week in the gym. 4 of those were double day sessions, so morning and evening. And all of them were at least between 2 and 3.5 hours. And then on the days that I didn't do weightlifting, I would do cardio. So I'd go walking or running or something like that just to maintain a bit of athleticism. But yeah, it was a lot.
Wow. That is that's like I guess I forget that with a lot of weightlifting, they do those double sessions. I forget about that. That's still I can't even fathom that. Like my push, I only right now let myself do maybe 5 hours a week. Yeah, 5 hours of training a week. Like for the poundage, I back out. I used to put like 10 to 15, and I thought I was killing it, and I started to regress. But so yeah, for the past 3 or 4 years, as my lifts have climbed, I'm only down to like 5 hours a week. But my gosh, 25 hours a week. That's your life.
It was, yeah. It was my life for those years. And
And you
yeah, like,
said you were what we call is homeschooled. We call it here. Is that what you're saying? You were homeschooled growing up?
yeah, from the age of, I don't know, young until 13. Yeah.
Yeah, I was too. I was homeschooled my whole life. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Ah,
yeah, that's
weirdly
funny.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, you were the only one that missed out. No, I'm just kidding. No, I actually liked it. But okay, so with Olympic weightlifting, you said that was your first love. Being that it's kind of like it's not powerlifting. I understand it's a very explosive sport and all those things, but it's the same two real movements. You have other variations to
Correct.
train. Is
Correct.
that why it was able to keep you I guess interested with it? Because for me, powerlifting got to a point where it's kind of boring. Um, just to do over and over and over again. But with Olympic weightlifting, there are a lot of other things you have to train to be able to do the snatch and do the clean and jerk. You can break it down. Is that what kept your interest in it for so many years?
Yeah, that I don't have the issue of getting bored with training as long as it's progressing.
Gotcha.
Um, Also, when I first started it, for me, it was a way of socializing. So I hated homeschooling. I really didn't enjoy home life at all. So for me, like I would, yeah, lie about it being public holidays so that I could go into college where the gym was and I could hang out with the guys who trained there. Um, so that definitely started it. It was quite social. And yeah, back in those days, I was the kid who'd like skip sets and reps and lie about stuff to get through the sessions. And then, yeah, after not long, it was, yeah, I couldn't understand that mentality at all. And it was just about, yeah, anything that I could do to improve was what kept me in there. And when you come across a new variant of exercise, and I had a few coaches in my time, um, but yeah, coming across different ways of approaching things and trying to break mental barriers because I was not a naturally gifted athlete at all. So yeah, lots of people talk about genetics and this, that, and the other thing. I was not, and my first coach would say this quite openly. I wasn't naturally fast. I wasn't technically proficient. I wasn't flexible. I was strong because anyone can train strength. And it was one thing that I knew that I could train and push and it would improve. So I did that. And I did try, obviously, to be better at the other things, but I just wasn't naturally that way inclined. So I always had something to work towards. I was never, oh God, no one ever is, but I was never anywhere near perfect. So there was always plenty for me to try to focus on and improve on.
That sounds even crazy for me to hear that. To hear that your coach said you weren't. I, how do you not be a completely gifted athlete and done what you've done? I mean, my gosh, but I'd say 25 hours a week, that hard work beats talent, that old cliche phrase. I guess that really has been true in that stage. And and I'm not going to let you take away from yourself. You have to be talented to do what you've done and be as strong as you have and continue progressing and do 13 reps. Was it 13 or 14 reps with 180?
14.
14 reps with 180. You're really strong. That's ridiculous. And that was in the under 73, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, when I saw that, I just started laughing. I
It was a
literally thought,
beautiful bar, honestly, I have to say. That Kratos bar with the bumpers on it, she had some mad whip. It was a good time.
nah, you did 14 reps with 180. I don't care. I don't care if it was on a silver dollar. No, that is huge. I remember the first time I ever pulled 400. I'm not going to tell you how old I was because you'll make me feel bad now. No. Okay, so you did the Olympics or did Olympic weightlifting. Sorry. With that, I'm sure the goal was to probably take that all the way. That was your mindset back then.
Yeah, to go as far as I possibly could. Yeah, the aim was definitely to make at least Commonwealth Games was the goal. But yep, that didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. And because of that, I found strongman.
That was my next question. How did you find strongman from that?
Yeah, so I was very depressed and devastated. I still owned, excuse me, I still owned the gym or co-owned the gym. And in all honesty, my brother was doing some local strongman stuff. He'd done the Arnold Australia the year before, and he came third at that. And he was just playing around with some local strongman stuff.
And
In
how old were you for this time?
This was 20. I can tell you the first competition I ever did was January 26th, which is Australia Day in 2018. So there was a
Oh
qualifier.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, the local qualifier. So the Commonwealth trials that I shit the bed on were December 17th, 2017. And then my brother was going to compete in this strongman comp. And in all honesty, I knew I was strong. Obviously, I'd done Olympic lifting for however many years at that stage, like 15 years. And I just wanted to do well at something. I just really wanted a bit of an ego boost. I wanted to compete and have fun and do well. So I did my first ever water cut. So Olympic lifting is a 2-hour weigh-in, where obviously strongman is a 24-hour. And I thought it would be really easy, and I nearly died. It was horrendous. It was one of the worst cuts I've ever done. It was, oh Lord, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just taught through it by my brother. And I think I cut, it was demented. I cut from like 73, 74 kilos down to 65 for that competition in a
And that
week.
was that your first that's your first show?
That was my first competition.
Most people say don't ever cut your first show. You're just going to have fun, and you do one of the biggest water cuts ever.
I didn't say I was smart, man. Like, it was so dumb, and I was so traumatized. I had to do it because I won that show, and it qualified me to go to the Arnold Australia. And I was so freaked out by it because it was rough. I had to do the same cut again. 8 weeks later was the Arnold in Australia, and I was like, oh my God. But if I put the fork down and I actually bring my body weight down, the cut will be so much easier. I, in fact, did not put the fork down, and I did not lose any weight, and the cut was hideous. It was absolutely awful. But I made it. Touch wood, I've never missed weight in my life, and I never intend to. I think it's really unprofessional, and it would break my soul if I ever did that, because I talk about it so passionately. So yep, I made weight for that, and that was, again, I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. I had no equipment. I just figured I'd do all right because I was strong, and that was like the worst placing I've ever had in Australia. I think I came 7th at that Arnold's. Got pants, like there were some good girls there, and I was just blown away by how good they were. But I loved it. It was a really, really fun competition. So then I just started doing as many of the local comps as I could, and qualified again for the next year's 2019 Arnold. And that was my first good year in strongman. So I won 2019 Arnold Australia, which qualified me to go to Ohio. I won Static Monster Worlds that year. I did kettlebell national championships too. That was fun. I won a national title. And then I went over in 2020. It was like the last competition before the world shut down. Went to the Arnold in 2020 and won that next to Carl. And we were the first Australians ever to make a podium at the Arnold. And we both won. So that was, really, really
So
special.
basically, you got into strongman, won your first show, did bad on your next show, and then just so the listeners understand, you won everything else after that.
Nearly. I was undefeated in a weight class in Australia until when was it? a couple of months ago, just before, I know, log deadlift stone we had here in August, I think. And I decided to risk it for the biscuit, and I opened my stone above the world record. And yeah, I had an athlete competing in my weight class, and I didn't want to take, for me, it wasn't about winning. I didn't have any desire to win the competition because it was an OSG qualifier and I'd already qualified.
Oh,
So I
okay.
didn't have any desire to win the competition. I was only entering it for that record. That was what was important to me. I did log and I did the deadlift as well. But it wasn't important enough. If I didn't get the record, I didn't want to take the win and the qualifying spot from my athlete. So I thought I'd open at 152.5, which I still believe would have been fine, except that I didn't predict there would be, I load in a really awkward way. So I'll jam my body under the stone and then roll it back onto myself and slide the bottom of the stone onto the yoke or platform. That's just what I do when they're that big and they're that heavy. And there was a rubber insert in the platform. So as I jammed under it, it just wouldn't move. There was no way in Seven Hills I could load the way that I need to load. So I did try 3 times and I got it close, but I just couldn't. I burst a blood vessel in my eyeball. So that was, at least I tried. But yeah, I efforted that day. I did not get the record that I was after. So aside from that competition, so obviously I bombed that one. Aside from that, yeah, I've been.
No, you didn't bomb that one. You're going for the world record. It's just things happen and circumstances that you cannot always control, So no, you didn't bomb that one.
Well, on paper.
Yeah.
It was not my best outcome, but I had a red hot stab. I gave it all I could. Aside from that, yeah, undefeated in Australia, and I've got second at OSG last December.
Yes.
And second in the 73s at PPL to Sandra, which was, absolute pleasure to go head to head against her. Sandra Bradley's an absolute superstar. So yeah, that was really cool.
That is. I want to ask you too. You're just saying about the stone and how you get in position. I guess you're doing that because obviously with lifting big weights, it's a lot of people on the outside who aren't in sport. They don't understand that it's always getting yourself in position around implements, so you can be in the most powerful position. Well, you're talking about getting under. Is that I guess keeping it more in line with your body so it's not pulling you so far over, so you're in a stronger position, I guess, with the stone?
It's a bit of that. So yeah, it's
kind of a hinge too, making it almost more like a deadlift.
I definitely hip hinge hard on my stone. I don't have amazing thoracic extension.
Okay.
So basically how I have to lift the stone, because we load to 120 centimeters here, which is just under 48 inches, I believe. So slightly higher than some, like UK and USA, I think.
Sure.
So what I basically do is I try to roll the stone onto my sternum, and my body, my lower back is extended quite heavily, and then I just elevate by trying to lock my knees. So I'm trying to just lift the stone while my body's nearly horizontal, and then that last extension is enough to get it over. If I could extend my upper back better, which is I have to work on, I don't think it would be such an awkward load.
Okay. So you're kind of almost, all loading Atlas stones, understand, are going to say it's kind of like a deadlift, but you're really, really leaning into that side of it pretty hard with how you're positioned, talking about not being able to extend properly, or not properly, but just not as well as you could or as efficiently as you could. So you're kind of leaning into that pretty hard, getting so much hips through and putting that thing so high on your chest. My gosh, you have to really, you have to have some upper back strength for that.
It actually surprised me. So in March at the lightweight final that I did after EPL, I was lucky enough that the promoters, I asked them before the competition, there was a stone run was the last event. And I'm always asking to do extra weird shit in competitions. And I asked the promoter again, as I usually do, I said, if I complete the stone run and there's time, because it was a live on KO, I said, if there's time, would you allow me to have an attempt at what I thought was the national record, which actually ended up being a world record. But anyway, that's another story. And which was 150. And they agreed. So there were photos, there's footage of it. And I was so shocked at the photo just before the stone is loaded at how intensely Matrix-esque I look under the stone. Like it's pretty hectic with 2.5 times your own body weight resting on your sternum while your back's nearly like folded in half. It was, yeah, pretty crazy.
That is, yeah, that scares me just to even hear.
I've never noodled under one. So, yeah, you're right. My back must be reasonably stable. Even though it's on a scan, my lower back's not nice. It's not pretty.
Really?
Yeah, really bad. Which is, I'm a big advocate of being stronger is definitely better. So I believe that every joint system can be made asymptomatic by strengthening the surrounding structures. So I've had a dodgy lower back for many, many years.
Sure.
And I've just seen there are certain exercises which I credit to having basically a sleeve of muscle that surrounds my spine, and I can deadlift the world and lift stones quite well. So, and I don't consider myself in any more pain than anyone who trains as much as I do. So,
Sure.
yeah, I can have that with like I said, what scans say and what your abilities are definitely up to you.
Sure. That sounds very, very similar to Dr. Andrew Locke. That's what he says. You know who he is? He's from
Yes.
Yeah, he says stuff like that all the time. He kind of it was really good when I found him too, because I've had a back injury ever since 2016 maybe. I actually heard it. I think I was like 18 or something, and I pulled a 500-pound deadlift, and I had lost like 30 pounds from when I had done it before, and I was building back up, and when I got to it again, because I didn't have that extra thickness, I overextended my back too far on the lockout because I just wasn't expecting it. It pulled a little better than I thought, and I felt my spine something happened, and it was never right for years after that. I couldn't press overhead without really bad pain. Anyway, long story short, I've got to where I decompress it all the time, but I strengthen the muscles around it. I've done so many reverse hypers, so many back extension, and as long as I can keep it decompressed, and training abs like a madman, which I don't have a six-pack, so don't know where that's going, but
strong, not pretty. That's all you need.
yeah, that's it. Functional, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
heavy abdominal work I actually rate really highly. And yeah,
Yeah.
things Jefferson curls and yeah.
Yep.
There are
Very
a few
good.
more key exercises that I think are that for me they're essential for my actual function.
Sure. As far as records, you said that stone is that the world record you currently have right now, 150, or did you go back and break 152 or no?
No, so to 1.20 m, which all other weight classes have loaded to, so 82s, opens, they were both loaded to 1.20 m. In 2019, I loaded 150 kilos, weighing 70 kilos to 1.20 m. So 73s, 82s, and opens, all of the standing world records were to 1.2 meters.
And you had those?
I had the 73 record,
Okay.
but I obviously hadn't weighed in 64 for that competition. That was an open weight comp. I just wanted, again, because I'm a nutcase, I asked if I could weigh in because I wanted to attempt a double body weight stone. I hadn't heard of anyone at that point who had done double body weight. So I did. I managed to load the 140 and then the 150 in that same competition, and I had officially weighed in. So that was cool. But I and everybody else was under the belief that the stone world record as an under 64 and 73 had been raised to 151. But recently by Rhiannon Lovelace, which is it's an enormous weight, like absolute huge credit, huge weight stone, but it was loaded to 44 inches, which is 8 centimeters lower than what the other records had been loaded to. So in its own right, it's a world record. It is 151 kilos to 44 inches. But according to staying in line with the other records, I consider my 150 to 120 centimeters to be the current world record.
100%. Yeah, 100%. You own that. You own that record for sure.
Yes, but I still want to do 152 or 150.
You'll get it. I have no doubt.
Well, there's an opportunity which I'm considering taking before OSG, so we'll see.
How many more shows do you have planned before this OSG?
Possibly. So last weekend, that was my 9th competition for this year. So I'm thinking of doing one more before OSG, which would be another log deadlift stone. But that depends on if there is a stone of a weight which works for me. So it would need to be 151 or higher, and on scales like calibrated weighed. And I've asked if it happened to weigh 150 on the knocker, for example, could we tape a 1.25 kilo plate to it or something, just so that I could have a stab at it. It's certainly not going to make it an easier lift if you offset the weight like that. But yeah, we're not as open to the concept of customizing stones over here as they seem to be in some other places. Records, don't seem to be as big of a deal, but it is to me. So so I'll do what I have to do. If I end up doing that competition, that's like late October. And then I'm just about to, I've already entered OSG as a 64 and about to enter as a 73.
I knew you were going to say that. Oh my gosh. So you're going to try to, you got second last year in the 64s.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to, was there a lady last year that competed in both weight classes? I think there was, because of course I missed out on the final last year by a couple points. So I was able to watch it from the stands the last day. But at any rate, I believe there was a Masters, I think maybe, I'm not sure, but she competed. I think she competed in the 40s and the 50s maybe.
She did, yeah. Yeah, very impressive. She won the 50s and came third in the 40s.
Yeah,
I believe.
that's it. Yeah, that's.
So yeah, I did. Yeah, request that I could do this many months ago, and was told to wait and see for a while. But I did qualify officially by winning both of the national titles in the 63s, 64s and 73s. So I definitely qualified. A precedent was set. If I pay both entries, I can do both shows if I'm that way inclined. And the format's going to, I've been thinking about it and looking it over. The format's going to be quite difficult because of the change this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, doing 2 events as a 64, but then having to go back and re-warm up if you even have time as a 73 to go back to the first event. So it's not like you just flow from one into the other. It's going to be
fast.
Going to be really pretty stupid, really, but I'll give it a go.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to try to be the optimist for you. Maybe it'll be better that way. Maybe you already be warm, grab a snack and roll with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be fresh. It'll be good.
Yeah, you'll be totally fresh.
As a day, it's going to change up training in the next few months, but meh.
Okay.
We'll
I was going to ask that. So you are going to change kind of how you structure your training for that too. Don't give your secrets away. I don't want you to do that, but I guess you're going to try to make it faster pace, or I don't know.
Yeah, I guess moving forward, I'll just try to train as I compete. So yeah, minimal warm ups, like try to hit comp weights. Yeah, pretty fresh or even pre fatigued. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll play around with it as we go along. But yeah, the only thing that I would have to add into my like structured training would be stones if I choose to go across to Queensland and do a stone lift, but we'll see about that. Log and deadlift are staples. I really don't like it. I'm not impressed that that's the first event. It hurts my soul, but we do what we have to do. I have an issue where I pass out over a certain weight on log and axle now, apparently, but it's not fun.
Why does that happen?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm really not sure. It's gotten worse over the last few years. It's my right side. As soon as I rack, it's like, I don't know if you've got a different expression for it. It's similar to when it's bad, it's like chucking a whitey. So if you smoke too much weed and have an episode, it's quite similar. Not that I've done that. That would be really stupid and irresponsible as a child who was really stupid and irresponsible. But yeah, like it'll get to the point, and I feel it very early now, but I will lose vision. Everything goes blurry. I can't hear, like I'll hear like a really loud buzzing, ringing. I can't hear anything. Everything closes in, and the right side of my body, so my arm and my leg, will convulse quite heavily. And it passes quite quickly. Like it only takes 20 seconds and I'm all right to have another go again. But there's just not, when it happens, and I can't predict when it happens. With log, it's usually anything over 80 kilos, sometimes earlier. And axle seems to be anything over 90 kilos, again, sometimes earlier. And I just don't know how to mitigate it. I've tried salts and different breathing exercises and opening lungs and all that sort of thing, and I just can't seem to fix it. So that's made me even
So
more.
it happens more. It's not like from reps. It's nothing like, it's not really that. It's the strain of the weight. It's at a certain weight when you have to strain to a certain point. That's when it does whatever.
It's like a pressure. It might be a compression thing. I don't know if it's on a brachial nerve or something like that, and over a certain weight, the compression's enough to actually impact that nerve because it does go down the hand. I don't think it's circulation. Again, because of the symptoms, because they're quite heady, and again go down the arm and cause the convulsions in the leg as well. So I think it's nerve related, and it makes sense that as the weight gets heavier, so it'll happen with front squats now too. If it's over a certain weight, as soon as I unrack it, I know if it's going to be possible or not. And yeah, sometimes I've barely gotten the bar back into the racks before I can't see to get the bar back in the rack. So yeah, it's not fun. And I haven't quite worked out. It could have to do with my thoracic extension, that I'm in a state of kyphosis in the upper back. And maybe that's putting pressure on a nerve somewhere too. So maybe if I can fix that and alleviate that extension or flexion problem that I've got, maybe that'll get better too. It's never happened on a stone. Doesn't happen on a deadlift. Yeah, I know. That's very fortunate because that scares the absolute life out of me. Yeah, it doesn't happen on deadlifts or anything. It's only when I load, front rack. So fun.
That is so weird. I really do wonder what that is. I wonder, are you going to go see a specialist for that, or no? Just kind of work around it and see if you can't almost figure it out yourself.
I've spoken to quite a few people about it. Yeah, I don't know. I know I've got a bulged disc in my thoracic spine.
Yeah.
Possibly there's something in the neck as well. I haven't had that scanned. I've got, multiples in the lower back, but that doesn't impact it. Maybe it's something to do with my thoracic spine. Like I said, I've had lots of work done on it. And yeah, lots of people have said like if the muscular work doesn't fix the problem or change it at all, then it's more likely to be a nerve issue. Yeah. And again, if it is this maybe this is the start of the wheels falling off for us. Like, who knows? I can't overhead very well, but I still, yeah, I do enough to get by.
Did you not just get a world record in the axle recently?
Very marginal world record. Yes, I did. I spitefully, it was only because the weights weren't calibrated, so it ended up weighing 0.85 over the existing world record, and that was just before chaos, I think 4 weeks before that. So I held that
That
for
was how
about
much?
101.85
Okay.
on the scales under 64. And then, yeah, at chaos, it was broken again by 3 females. They all got 103.5, I believe it was, which is amazing, outstanding, like, yeah, really, really good. But yeah, on my last attempt at 98, I got, and that was okay. I could start to feel things starting to happen. And then 101, as soon as I racked it, I just started convulsing in rack. So if that was not going anywhere, so that was, very impressive by the girls. When it's on, it's on. When it's not, I think my last heavy session before chaos, I was only going to work up to just some reasonably heavy singles to see how that was all feeling. I was only going to work up to like 95 and see how that was moving, because I've got a bit of a shoulder problem as well. I'm pretty healthy. But it was the first session in as long as I can remember where I had nothing. I had no lightheadedness, no sensation at all in rack, and everything felt just effortless. And I punched out 102.5, like the best I probably ever have. It was really easy. So I thought, oh, we're on. Like, this is going to be a really good comp. But no, narrator, it in fact was not. It didn't go my way, which is it's fine. I can't predict when it happens, and absolute credit to the 3 girls who nailed it. Like, that's super impressive.
Well, real quick too, if we got time, if you want to talk just a little bit about last year's OSG and how you thought those events were and how that went for you. I know you're probably not gonna like that one as much because it says second place next to your name.
Oh no, not at all. Rhiannon's a fierce competitor. I was really impressed by how polished she was as an athlete. It's a hard competition for me, and it is a point of huge what ifs because not that many people are aware. Me and Carl had the flight over from hell. Our flight was delayed by 12 hours, and both of our luggage went missing.
And didn't his come in and yours didn't?
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
Nearly all of my comp gear. So I had my deadlift suit and my lifting shoes with me. I didn't have my moving shoes, my event shoes, no soft belts, no straps, no wraps, no sleeves, no nothing. I was so organized for it. Oh, I felt so smart when we left. Our scales were in the bag. I had IV kits. I had everything, all of our toiletries and everything. It was all set up and ready to go. And it never turned up. And it was, I could smell like everybody at OSG was sick. Airplanes are like petri dishes of festering sickness. So one of the supplements that I'm really passionate about and I take religiously is high dosage vitamin C. So I take 5 grams every day. That's what I do. In powder form, which is a lot. I don't recommend doing that straight up if you're not used to it because you'll spend some time on the toilet. But aside from that, like it's I find it amazing as far as like well-being goes. And on day 1 of competition, I could smell sickness on myself, which was not good. So we bought some vitamin C gummies over there. And I took as soon as I got them, I took like a handful. It would have been at least 10 grams, like straight up. And I was like, I'm going to know if this works or not. Absolutely nothing. They were just glucose. They did not.
Just sugar. Just crap.
They were just rubbish. I felt really run down and sick. On the moving events, I had my palladiums that I wore, just like my casual shoes that I wore on the plane. Be comfortable, and Carl offered to buy me new moving shoes, but to me, I didn't know if they'd be any better because obviously I hadn't used
Use
them.
them.
Am I better off using the ones that I'm at least reasonably comfortable in, but they're not actually moving shoes. Um, yeah, look, I don't know. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. I definitely know that during the sandbag into sled drag, I moved quite well on the sandbags, but they made them lighter at the last minute. Um, so the sled wasn't as heavy, which
Yeah, it
meant that
was.
we had to move faster. And I was moving, and I remember pulling as hard as I could, and I could feel my feet start to slip, and I couldn't move any quicker because if I slipped and landed on my bum, like it was, all of the girls were so fast that a couple of seconds would just cost a huge
Ever.
amount of
Yep.
points. So all I could do was just keep plodding along at the same speed. Yeah, I just couldn't push like I wanted to. Yeah, the frame felt weird and unstable. Again, was it because I was just nervous? Was it because of my shoes? Like maybe nothing would have been different if I'd had all of my kit there, but maybe it would have. Yeah, that was.
At that level, people, it's not a local competition. It's not just some little thing. And if you've never done it and competed at that high level like you have, people might not understand it, but that makes all the difference. I have a pair of shoes that I use for my yoke and for my frame, and if I was not to be in those, and you just gave me even flat Chuck Taylors, anything like that, it's going to make a huge difference, especially on the yoke for me, because as I take that step, there's not much, but it shifts and my foot shifts in there. I need my shoes that I use are almost like a hard plastic bottom. But if I didn't have those for some of those events, it absolutely, if you have to slow down for a second or just a split amount because you're worried about tipping or dropping or this or that, losing stability, that really costs you everything, because in that last little bit is when you really are confident to turn the jets on.
Exactly. Yeah, the last few seconds where you can just drop the hammer and push really hard. But
Yeah,
yeah,
'cause
exactly right.
you made it past halfway. You're not going to drop it. You can't sprint so far from the beginning, because when you get to the middle, it's going to outrun you. But after you get to the middle and you can just go full on, it's a timed drop. It's basically a timed fall to get that thing to the other side.
Exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So who knows? Yeah, don't know if things might have been different, but yeah, the events themselves, I enjoyed. The overhead medley first, there were a few teething problems with the reffing on it. It was somewhat inconsistent across the board, but a huge, like, full credit to Lynn. Like, yeah, me and Carl spoke to him really candidly about all of the things, and he was so patient and
sure.
really, really good at making athletes feel heard. I feel
Yeah,
like I didn't feel like an inconvenience at all, and I didn't feel like a whinger and yeah, a lot of the time, the things that are brought up don't even impact myself or
Mhm.
Carl directly. They're just things that need to be pointed out, because how can you fix something if you don't know it's an issue?
Sure.
Yeah, so there were some inconsistencies there. I believe that got sorted later on. The frame weight was lowered again on the
So they
day.
did lower it for your class when the time because I know that first group or whatever, it was demolishing people. People couldn't even move that for that would have been your weight class, would it not have?
Yeah, no, they'd already decided
So they, from the very
to
beginning, they lowered it.
yeah.
So with the weight being lowered, still that many girls were. Oh wow, okay, I did not know that. I thought my weight class was the first that they had really lowered it, but it was not.
No, no, and it wasn't hugely communicated to people. So you were under 80s as well. I know Carl wasn't aware that it had been lowered, so it changes the mindset of how you attack an
Oh
event like that.
yes,
Like, obviously, like, you're talking top end. When you know that you're a mover, if you think that it's starting to approach the heavier end, you're going to be a little bit more tentative. It's foreign handles, all that sort of thing. You don't know where the tip's going to go. So
Yep.
you'll generally hesitate and then build and try to get a top
Yep.
speed. Whereas if it's actually lighter than that, and some people know and some people don't, then you've got people who are just smashing through it, like from
Yep.
start to finish, which again, like as you mentioned before, a split second here and there in a moving event.
Everything. And you were talking
Yeah,
right
wicked.
there about the moving event. It does make a difference whether or not you're going max or speed or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly right. And yeah, those 20, 30, however many kilos it was, like it is quite significant, and it will impact like how you approach it and how you really drop the hammer from start to finish, as opposed to building into it gradually
Sure.
and trying to feel for the implement before you hit top end. And yeah,
How
and
did you
again,
like the stones?
I love the stones. I won that event, so that was really good.
Well, there you
I
go.
love stones.
Enough said.
I found
That's great.
it was look, I found it quite intimidating that we couldn't warm up on stones at all. We only had sandbags, but the stones themselves were beautiful, easy. They were grippy. They moved really well. I had no issue with them at all. Nice smooth run. Yeah, really lovely stones.
No, I didn't say it wrong. I'm talking about the walk after the frame.
Sorry.
That's okay. Hey, who cares?
Uh,
That's fine.
the created dinnies. Yeah, I've skipped right through to event whatever it was. Yeah, the replica dinnies. I'm not the biggest fan in the world. They're really gross. I'm comfortable with hook gripping. Well, I lie. I was comfortable with hook gripping from 20 years of Olympic lifting, but I haven't trained it for, I don't need to in strongman. So yeah, they hurt. They're awkward. They bash your legs. I don't like anything that's asymmetrical loading because I don't like what it does to your spine. But again, here I'm whinging about it. It was a cool event. It's a traditional event. I didn't do particularly well on that one. That was one I dropped quite a lot of points on. And again, like I honestly believe that was, I had a weird deadness in my legs. And since then I've actually done quite a bit of research into it, and I've found that vitamin C is a lactic acid buffer as well. So possibly that played into it as well. Look, again, who knows what it was. I felt weird doing that particular event, but as far as an event goes in training, I had no issue with it at all. I thought it was, pretty cool. Test of strength. Interesting to see everyone's different approaches to them. What methods they would use to actually get moving quickly without falling over the things. That was the other thing that I didn't love, was that in training we were told no drops. So they were the rules for the event. You can't drop them. And that changed, I believe, on the day. And I know that things need to be adaptable in a competition, but I'm of the belief that if people have trained a certain way, that's how it has to be. And if it causes people to zero or to drop or to anything like that, that's unfortunate. Like, we all knew what the weights were. We all knew what the rules were. I just think keep things as it's stated in the rules leading in.
I agree with that 100%. That's kind of that changes exactly how you're going to attack that too, because if you know that you can't drop it, you're going to take your time a little more, whereas if you know you can drop it, you can sprint that 10 feet, drop, pick, take off, and go regrip and kind of home free in a sense. I mean, you still have to do it, and that's fine if that was the event, but if it's not dropping at all, you had better be confident to take your time for no drops,
Not only that, with that particular event too, like the way people were timing the dropping, they were like literally like launching them forward, so it's more like a kettlebell swing type thing, but on the sides they're actually getting quite good distance from the drops and then picks. And if you time that right on the finish line too, like it was quite efficient. But definitely changes if your goal was to just do it unbroken and that's how you trained. Like, again, not making excuses, but it does change. It changes the dynamic of things.
Sure. After that was obviously the deadlift ladder. Now, you won that? or
No,
second?
yeah, second, I believe. I
The-
won the
I
open
guess.
deadlift was first event, but yeah, second on the deadlift.
Did you? Nah, I'm bad. I didn't go back and watch it. Did you reverse grip it, or did you use straps for the through it? Reverse the whole way through, or hook grip
I
probably.
No, I didn't hook grip. I
Okay.
alternate gripped, which I hate myself for, but I do it because it was quicker. Yeah, I reverse gripped all of the bars. I had a set of straps which Kenneth from Cerberus USA had lent me, but I had them sitting next to the bar in case I missed it and I
Mhm.
needed them. It was actually really strange using alternate grip. Like in training, I'd done the run multiple times with no dramas with grip at all. Like didn't even feel it. But the contrast between the bars, were they Goliath bars that we used? I can't remember. They had a really aggressive knurling.
They
Um,
were they were Chris Duffin's Kabuki deadlift bar, I believe.
Kabuki. Yep. Yeah, all of what were they? The three were really aggressively knurled, and then the end mammoth bar was quite soft in the knurling, and that actually, like, I got the down call just as my grip was slipping. So great timing, perfect. But I had
Yeah,
straps there ready to go. But
yeah,
yeah, it was really odd. I think that proprioception between having the knurling and then suddenly not having the knurling really, like, yeah, made a difference to
yeah.
the group. And but yeah, came second in that one. And yeah, tip of the hat. Ree is a phenomenal deadlifter.
Sure. Yeah. How did the sandbag toss go for you?
Good, not great, but good. I so the training that I have, and I'm going to fix that this year. Carl and I are going to set up an actual rig. So the cross beam I had for that, again, super grateful to be able to train events at all, and had a rig set up at height, but it was on gravel in an uneven driveway. So my speed between bags, because I was always worried about falling on my ass, I was quite tentative when I ran to and from bags.
Sure.
And that's what showed on the day, is that I just wasn't quick enough getting between them. I was too tentative. So yeah, it was, I missed one bag. I think it was the last one. And then I got it. So I think I came second in that event. But
So
yeah,
still really good points, but you think that you left some time out there just from your transition from bag to
yeah,
bag. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just wasn't, again, not polished enough, not, and again, you can make up all the excuses of not having the right area and equipment. I
Yeah.
had what I had. But that's where that was. Also, oh no, I did them in my lifters, I think. So I can't blame footwear on that one. That was me. It was all me.
Yeah. And then after that, I get the last. There wasn't any more other event in between that. It was the stones after that, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
stones.
And then you won the stones.
I did, and then felt really awkward waiting to congratulate Rhiannon because she'd won before even like completing the stone run. And yeah, an amazing performance. But yeah, I didn't know what to do. I felt like Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights, and I just
You don't do with your hands.
what do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I had a really good run on them. I was pumped. But yeah, even that, like I've got I don't know what it is, like popped rib or broken. I've broken my sternum. I think that was when I first loaded the 150 stone in 2019. I actually couldn't load a heavy stone for 2 years, more than 2 years after that, without excruciating pain. So yeah, that was fun. And I've got a bit of a popped rib. So high loads, anything over 1.2 really hurts. It used to be 1.2, but now it's over that. It really hurts, like when it rolls over this pokey bit of bone I've got. And I bought I don't know, they called it chesty. Some of the girls would know about them, some wouldn't. They were a CrossFit sports bra with a bit of padding here
Oh,
for when
okay.
CrossFit chicks clean the bar really ugly and then grind it up, which it shouldn't happen and it shouldn't be necessary in any sort of Olympic lifting, but it is apparently. It's a thing. But I found it really useful for stones because it just covered that little bit of rib. And then my luggage went missing. So that wasn't there. And I was really worried that I was going to, hurt myself. And that would be a distraction during the stone run. But yeah, I didn't feel it. So that was an unnecessary concern. yeah, but just another example of all of my stuff going missing. Like no
That's
no
awful.
nothing. Oh god.
And
It
you
was so gross.
did you guys fly into that little tiny airport? Yeah, I didn't know if you flew into another one and got see other people flew into some other ones and they got, driven in or however long, but you guys actually came into that little tiny rinky dink one.
We did, and then we spent hours there waiting to see if our luggage would come through, and then filing a report for lost luggage. And the poor little darling who was taking the report, it was, I don't know if it was her first day there or first week or something. She had no fucking clue what she was doing. She was trying to be really helpful, but I still, like now, I don't have that luggage. It's gone. All of my
Really?
yeah, all of my clothes, all of that stuff, it's all thousands of dollars worth of stuff is gone. And I've never gotten any compensation from the airline, nothing. It's just been that was the biggest clusterfuck of a flight I've ever been on in my life.
I mean, I guarantee you've still tried to get up with them and stuff and good, but I mean, they just never, nothing.
Tried to follow it up. We booked through a travel agent. Yeah, nothing. They were just all useless. Yep. Tried to talk to them. They all handballed to different airlines. Not our problem. Not our problem. Yeah, it's just nothing's ever come of it. So Carl spent thousands over there, like trying to get what we needed to get by. Yeah, and have never had any of it compensated at all.
We have no idea what you international athletes have to go through to
You
come over
don't.
here. I
You
mean,
really don't.
do you know how far it was from my house? It was maybe 4-hour car ride from my house. That's when they announced it last year where it was at, I was just like, I mean, I was pumped because the year before that was it was Florida, wasn't it? Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Florida. And
go to
I was complaining because I had to have a 10 or 11 car hour ride to Florida.
oh.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, it sounds so hard.
Our own car, everything's in the back. I mean, I'm still in my home country, the States. Yeah, and I've already been complaining about it being what is it? If I decide to drive, it's like a 13-hour car ride. But I don't know. I might fly, but that gives me anxiety flying just for horror stories like that. But surely it couldn't be that bad.
Oh, look, I've flown. Obviously, I've done 3 internationals this year, 3 international flights. Qatar Airways, perfect, brilliant, really good. 10 out of 10. Do not recommend Air India. That was really unfortunate. Yeah, that's a story for another day. It was horrendous, but we still got there on time. Yeah, never had an issue. I'd never heard about an air tag until I lost my luggage. So that's a handy thing to have. I won't be traveling without one of them again. Yeah, didn't know they existed. Now I do.
I still don't know it exists until you just said it. So,
Oh, it's this cool little device that connects to your phone, and you put it in your luggage, and it tells you. It's like Find My iPhone, but wherever this little thing is will tell you where it is, so you can't actually lose things. Like old people will put them on their like car keys and stuff like that, so that they don't. Probably anyone who's goldfish and forgets stuff all the time, that'd be quite handy.
yeah.
But yeah, definitely good to go in your luggage, and yeah, you just
You can't argue where it went if you have that.
exactly right. Exactly right. You
Might be
can't
in the back
handle
of
the
somebody's car headed somewhere, but you can at least see that.
they would have had some fun in there.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what anyone's going to do with my filthy knee sleeves and
Yeah.
IV bags.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a score.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, if Lynn or anybody ever moves OSG Worlds to overseas, I don't know that I'll be competing. No, just kidding.
That's so unfortunate.
No,
I know
I'll
you
try to
guys are
come if I
keen
can.
to have to. Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, from heaps of you boys. Yeah, just how keen you are to. Well, some of you, not you, obviously. But yeah, to actually have it somewhere else, to go and travel and do something different. But you're right. You don't know how much harder it is trying to time a water load and
Oh,
travel and time differences and bag meat. Oh my God, man, you'd be so impressed. You'd be so impressed with the things I take onto an airplane and eat. Mm.
It's like a whole nother event. It's like a whole nother event before you ever get there.
Mm.
And the stress factors and trying to keep the stress factors down. I don't do that stuff very well. I mean, I'm much better than I used to be, but yeah. And then just cost of things being so expensive. I mean, it costs loads of money to go do that stuff. And when you start putting in airlines and going here and there and everywhere, I mean, that's, I haven't almost, well, she's one and she's not quite two. And then I work full time. I probably work 50 some hours, almost sometimes 60 hours a week. I'm not trying to put extra money down on that. But for this sport, if that came to that, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's a hobby. It's, for me at the moment, it's an expensive hobby, but I see it as an investment. If I can make a name for myself and set a bit of a legacy, then hopefully that will help when I switch my focus more to coaching.
Sure.
But yeah, the shit we have to do. Like twice now, I've been naked in a toilet in Doha in the airport, checking my body weight because I carry my scales on the plane with me just to make sure that I'm on track for the competition. Like it's a process.
What would you do if you weren't? I mean, it's not like you're gonna jump on in a hot bath or a sweatsuit right there in the airport.
No, but it gives me an idea of how hard I have to work when I land.
That's just for the mental approach there for you.
Yeah, and when I stop drinking, if I've taken salt out early enough, all that sort of thing. If I need to keep drinking more to flush harder, at least it gives me a gauge of roughly where I'm at. So
what you have to do. Okay.
It's good. It feels really classy.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Wow. Well, we've been on here for almost an hour and 20 minutes. Is there anything else you want to talk about or discuss or end with, or is that pretty good for the first round?
Look, it's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I don't think there's anything pressing that I want to talk about.
Well,
except that I've been really happy to do a 17th event on the weekend as a tiebreaker. I was hoping
yeah, I bet you were. Yeah. Who made the decision
What's
not
another
to do
one?
that?
I'm sorry.
Who made the decision not to do that?
So it was, Carl is a wizard on the numbers, and when I found out that we were tied for points going into the last event, I thought that I found out that the tiebreaker was count back.
Oh, okay.
So I actually thought that I was behind quite significantly. So I actually messaged Carl at God knows what time it was here, and I said I actually don't think I can win now. And he went through the points, and he told me that if I were to win kegs and Chloe were to come second, we were tied on points from first through to fourth places, like completely even. So count back wouldn't work. So anyway, that is what happened. And I was like, oh, don't even think about that because it might not eventuate that way. There are other possibilities for what can happen in the last event. But that is exactly what happened. We were first and second, so we tied perfectly for points. We were approached individually by the promoters, and we weren't allowed to talk to each other. So we were asked if we would like a tiebreaker or if we would like to share first position. We weren't told what the tie-breaking event would be. I definitely wanted a tiebreaker.
No doubt.
Because there were two events on day two which didn't quite go my way, and I felt I could possibly have been in the lead by that stage anyway, but I wasn't. We were tied. And again, that is what it is. Yeah, we were told to make a decision. Would we like a tiebreak or share? I wanted the tiebreak. Chloe chose to share first place, and they'd already decided before approaching us that if one of us wanted to share first place and the other didn't, then that's what we were going to do. So that decision was made, and I couldn't coax her into it. So I wasn't allowed to anyway, but yeah, that decision was made for me.
Yeah, well, hey, you can't control everything. That's part of being
No.
sport. You can't control all that stuff. And at the end of the day, you got to come home with two first place international. Well, let's not take it. It was worlds. It's natural worlds, but you got to bring those trophies back home, and that's ultimately what you went there for, and you got it. So that's very incredible.
Yeah, and yeah, no, at all, no discredit at all to Chloe. She was wicked all weekend, cool chick, fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
Uh, it was a really really good weekend.
Good. Well, thank you very much for coming on here. I really, really appreciate it. And I've got, like I said, I got a little daughter, and she comes down here with me a lot of times and watches me lift, and she'll grab weights and strain at them like she's trying to lift. And my wife and her family, they're not they've all been farmers, so as far as training and things like that, they just don't really know what it was, and their experience with strongman was watching Zadrunas and Brian, on ESPN sometimes, and anyway, my wife, just from watching me now go and do OSG and stuff, she's gotten more knowledgeable of it, so she's more open to the idea for Bella to
Ooh,
do it someday. At first, she was like, absolutely not. And I don't
yeah,
blame her as it goes,
yeah.
but you're definitely somebody that I think is an inspiration, and I would definitely want my daughter to see somebody like you. You were somebody that I would want her to look up towards, because what you've done in sport, the way you carry yourself, you're always smiling. Every time I see what you do on competitions and on your Instagram, you're just I don't know. You're just a professional, and you're a top level athlete. So I'm very honored to have you on here, and definitely I want to have you back on again. We'll see how my training goes, and after OSG and how that goes. Maybe we can have a second interview on there. Maybe I can do one with you and Carl both.
That would
That'll
be
be
amazing. The
that'll be a
best
3-hour
energy.
episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. If I was standing up, I'd be shuffling my feet awkwardly at the compliment. So thank you
Well,
very much.
I mean it. I'm not just saying that. I genuinely mean that. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in December.
All right, you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Bye, Ross.